We are in the source pack on page 10. Now, we are looking at document C where it says experiencing the religious meeting house. Now, just to remind us, we are in unit 1 questioning power. And the question that we're thinking about today is how is power used, maintained, and justified? Today we're going to think about used and maintained. So let's look at this context because you should always read the context before you start reading the text because it helps you understand what you're about to read. I'm also going to show you how to use these checks for understanding, the word bank, and the summary if you're struggling to understand what's in front of you. So let's start. Experiencing the religious meeting house. So I'm just going to look at this title. I'm already going to assume I know that religion's involved and I know that people are meeting in this place. We'll see if it's one religion or multiple. The following excerpt comes from Akbarman from the Book of Akbar, which is a biography of the third Mughal emperor, Akbar the Great. The book was commissioned by Akbar himself and written by one of his court historians, Abdul Fazal, known as one of the 9 jewels of Akbar. In this excerpt, the Emperor Akbar has returned from his conquest to his capital and to his meeting house. Now, based on this context, I can tell a few things. One, because I would have already done my prep work, I know that the Mughal Empire and the Mughal Emperor is led by Muslim people, Muslim men. You could also make that assumption just by names like Akbar, Akbarnama, also names like Abdul. This will give me context clues that this is a Muslim leader. Now, I'm also going to think about the bias who wrote this. The person who wrote this was commissioned by Akbar himself to write one of his history, as one of his court historians. So this person is more likely to say positive things about Akbar because he's commissioned by Akbar. You're not going to make your boss look bad. So I'm going to assume that bias before I read it. But let's keep reading. We're going to get these first 2 paragraphs done. And then when I get down to this, the last of this underline where it says with delight, I'm going to pause. And I'm going to have you do the next 2 paragraphs by yourselves. And then we're going to do this last one. And I'm going to show you how to use the CFU box. Okay? So, when the capital was illuminated by the return of the imperial presence, the old practices came again into operation. The house of wisdom shone brightly on Friday nights with the light of holy minds. So, again, like it said in the context, we know that Akbar is showing back up. Now, imperial refers to empire. So whenever you hear the word imperial, you think about empire. Let's also go look at the word bank since this word is bolded over here. Imperial relating to an empire. Now, he's getting back and there's something about this house of wisdom that he's going to return to. Let's see what this house of wisdom is. I'm assuming it has to do with religion. On the 20th Mer, in that place of the meeting, the lamp was kindled. The merits of the philosophers of the colleges and monasteries were put on the test of the touchstone. And this is underlined, also related to the CFU. What is the relationship between the underlined words? So I'm going to look very closely at this underline to see if it makes sense to me. Sufis, doctors, pleasures lawyers, Sunnis, Shias, Brahmins, Jainis, Buddhists, Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, and learned men of every belief were gathered together in the royal assembly and were filled with delight. So what this is telling me is I got all these different types of people. I got religious people. I got non-secular or non-religious people. I got Muslims, different types of Muslims. I got Christians. I got Buddhists. I got people from every thought pattern, every philosophy. But they're filled in one spot with delight. So this is telling me that there's a unity or a bringing together that's happening under this Mughal leader, this Muslim Mughal leader. So that's what that tells me. So I'm going to see what that has to do maybe with the second one. Now I'm going to pause right here, and I want you to read these two by yourself, and I want you to think, how is power being used, or how is power being maintained? You're going to write that in the chat when you're done reading those two paragraphs. Pause the video. All right, we're going to keep on going now. Now, this last paragraph. With enlightenment, the emperor said, man's outward belief and the mere letter of Islam without hateful conviction can do nothing. I have forced many Brahmins, by fear of my power, to adopt the religion of my ancestors. But now that my mind has been enlightened with beams of truth, I have become convinced that the dark clouds of conceit, which if you look at the word bank means like cockiness or like pride, and the myths of self-opinion have gathered around us, and that practice to repeat the words of the creed, to perform circumcision, can avail nothing in the sight of God if it does not come with wisdom and true search for truth. So, if I'm going to look at this underlined statement, it's sounding like he's saying man's belief, what they believe on the outside, and just the mere letter of Islam, just the words that are in the Quran, things like that, without heartful conviction, without feeling it, without having it be in your heart, can do nothing. So just reading about religion or just like following the word of religion does nothing because you don't really believe it in your heart. He said, I have forced many Brahmins by fear of my power. So he said he used to use fear to rule, to adopt the religion of his ancestors, which would be Islam. But now that his mind has been enlightened, he sees that it's not about just like forcing people to practice a religion based on the words. They have to believe it in their heart. So it sounds like Akbar kind of was convinced that you need to bring people together. You need to have discussion, as he says down here, search for truth, in order to really feel what you believe in your heart. But let's see if I'm right. Let's go to CFU. Now, the CFU is always going to be very easy. I just want you to learn how to use it. It's either going to be an A or a B. So, what is the relationship between the two underlying words? So, in the first one, we said we saw a whole bunch of different people in the religious house meeting, and they were filled with delight. It was a positive experience. The second one is about Akbar having a change of heart, realizing that it's not just about like you obey this religion because I said so. It's because people have to have an experience and they have to seek out truth to really believe something in their heart. So let's see. Is it A, the Mughal Empire's diversity helped enlighten the emperor? Or is it B, the Mughal Empire's diversity was limited by the emperor? Y'all tell me. Do you think the emperor was enlightened? Or do you think that he limited and stop people from practicing what they wanted to practice or believe what they wanted to believe? Now, this summary also helps understand some things. So the summary is going to just say everything in the article that you want to know that's there together. So if you're struggling to understand what you just read, this summary can also help you. These are not for every reading, but they are for the readings that are most important to this course. So go ahead and pause this video. We're going to look at the next document after that. All right. So now we're at document E, the Closed Country Edict of 1635. Now, I'm already looking at this title because we just read something about opening up your country to different beliefs and different kinds. So this sounds like this is going to have an opposite opinion. I'm just going to make that assumption. But let me read this context and see if my assumption might be a little right. In this ruling by the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan enacts into practice a form of isolationism. I'm going to go to the word bank, but I'm also just going to, before I look at this, I'm going to assume isolationism has to do with isolation. And it might have to do with Japan isolating itself as a country. So let's look at the word bank. Um, Isolation's not in here, but we can use our context clues. Isolationism is to isolate a country, to close itself off. But so we know the shogunate is the last military government of Japan. So this is before the Japan that we know today. Over the previous 100 years, Japan had become a recipient of foreign ideas and active participant in regional trade. That's interesting. So it's saying that they actually have taken in other people's ideas and they've been trading with other countries. So maybe they just had a change of mind and wanted to be more isolationist and close their country. Let's keep reading the context. With this edict, that would dramatically decline. We also see an additional addendum in 1639 regarding the Portuguese. So the Portuguese must have come, rolled their boats up on Japan's shore, and maybe this new shogunate, the Tokugawa Empire, is not with it. I'm going to read the first 5 points. You're going to read 7, 8, 9, and 14. We skipped a few just for, And then we're going to look at this last piece so that we can make some sense of this document. So, the closed country edict. Looks like some list of rules. Let's see. 1. Japanese ships are strictly forbidden to leave for foreign countries. Okay, Japanese ships can't go out. 2. No Japanese is permitted to go aboard. If there is anyone who attempts to do so secretly, he must be executed. Oh, they're not playing. 3. If any Japanese returns from overseas after residing there, he must be put to death. Yeah, they're not playing at all. 5. We skip 4. Any informer revealing the whereabouts of the followers of the priests must be rewarded accordingly. If anyone reveals the whereabouts of a high-ranking priest, he must be given 100 pieces of silver. For those of lower ranks, depending on the deed, the reward must be set accordingly. So they're giving money to just ensure that no one's following a priest. I'm assuming that they're trying to keep Catholicism out of the country because we're talking about Portugal. So we got a trade and economic aspect, and we also have a religion and a culture aspect. Go ahead and read 7 and 14 on your own. Pause the video. Respond in the chat. How is power being used or maintained in this and in these bullets? 7 through 14. How is power being used or maintained? All right, let's look at this last piece. Exclusion of the Portuguese, 1639. 1. Matter relating to the prescription of Christianity is known to the Portuguese. So they're already calling it out. We don't want Christianity in Japan. 2. However, heretofore they have secretly transported those who are going to propagate that religion. Propagate means to spread. In view of the above, hereafter entry by the Portuguese ships is forbidden. If they insist on coming to Japan, the ships must be destroyed, and anyone aboard those ships must be beheaded. We have received the above order and are thus transmitting it to you accordingly. All right. This last piece, memorandum. With regards to those who believe in Christianity, you are aware that there is a ban, and thus knowing, you are not permitted to let priests and Jews who believe in their preaching to come aboard your ships. This memorandum is to be given to those who come on Chinese ships. This note was also similarly sent to the Dutch. Now, let's just check this CFU. These two underline. We have an underline from the context. Over many years, Japan has become a recipient of foreign ideas and active participants in regional trade. So they've been dealing with the Portuguese, they've been dealing with the Chinese, they've been trading with other places. But here they're saying, no, you can't let anyone who's trying to spread Christianity in. If you have any of those boats, you got to destroy the boats, you got to execute everybody. So what is the relationship between the two underlying statements? Is it number one is the effect of number two? Or is it number two is the effect of number one? Well, based on this, it's saying over previous hundreds of years, Japan had become a recipient of foreign ideas and active participant in regional trade. So I'm assuming that this was too much for them and they wanted to become more isolationist, which led them to block off the ships, destroy the ships, execute people. So I'm going to say two is the effect of one. Now, again, if you did not understand what you just read, this summary will kind of bring it all together for you if you're struggling. And now we'll go read it one more time just so we could work on our reading comprehension skills. Go ahead and stop this video. We are moving forward with the lesson live on Zoom. So go ahead back to Zoom.